nuclear weapons, and it's going to be very hard to break that addiction.
Well,
I don't think it's going to happen with the present administration in America.
I don't see how it could, do you?
No.
I don't see how it possibly could. I think it's very dangerous.
No, it would require, things can happen often much more quickly than people realize.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
And a change of administration, somebody like, oh, I don't know, Trudeau, he was one of the first modern political leaders.
Yeah, Canada.
And I think
he had McLuhan in his court.
That's right. I mean, he was, first of all, he was an intellectual, which is very rare in government. And he brought to it a real vision, and that was unique and still is extremely rare. I can't think of anybody, any world leader today, in that intellectual caliber.
In that particular caliber.
He was a wonderful flash.
Well.
And but somebody like that, if they were to come forward, if they were to, by accident or whatever, become the president, they could do wondrous things.
You think they could?
They could.
Okay, they could within the but could they ever become the president, or could they? Or are they going to be able to have a chance to do it?
Very difficult in the United States.
And yet, the United States is a superpower beyond anything since Rome even dreamed of.
An Australian Prime Minister once said to me that nobody gets to be president of the United States without the approval of the Mafia and the Council on Foreign Relations.
Well, the Council on Foreign Relations has a lot of powerful interests.
True. Yeah.
Well, that's probably powerful, true, that there are people that have these stake in the historically inherited patterns. And if something was going to come that was truly revolutionary, if the thing of transcending, if we realize that at an epistemological or an abstract level we have transcended scarcity, or something, that would be a thing, a notion that would be so unsettling to the traditional patterns. James Joyce had
resistance.
James Joyce had Daedalus say, history is a nightmare from which I'm attempting to awaken, that we're awakening from something that is so inconvenient to the architecture and the structure and the thinking and everything, including, most significantly, I would say, economic theory, that it would not be able to be seen in any kind of way as ever to be. We would need a new economic theory outside of that, which has informed all of our political leadership up to the present. We don't have that. Marx doesn't work. Schumpeter doesn't work. Van Hayek doesn't work. Milton Friedman doesn't work, except that you have these neocons who think that the market fundamentalism does work. Now they have their notion of what it is that would do that. They have the bit in their teeth and so forth, but none of those systems would work. They're all based on a particular theory of human beings and the relationship to the economy and so forth that is not allowing us...
It works for a while for them, the way for a while Enron worked for them.
Want to talk about that? Yeah, well, Enron is very much involved in that, because the neocon is not only, the neocon connection is not only geopolitical on the international scale, links to right-wing Likud and so forth, going back 20, 30 years and so forth. They've had this view, but it's also got an economic philosophy that's behind it, and it's very market fundamentalist oriented, and it's
fundamentalist at many levels.
Fundamentalist at many levels, and they've also got a very strong glint in their eye that they have some sort of an ultimate truth that they can bring to the world, and it's dangerous. And you've been writing on that.
Right.
If I may, on the administration and on some of the activities around 9/11 and so forth?
9/11 was, profound in many ways, and in some of which have not been fully discussed in the American media, certainly, and some of them are being discussed in detail, again, only on the Internet. But if you prowl the Internet, you can come up with some amazingly interesting insights. And you can also do checks and verification in a way that was not possible before without the Internet. So it's resulted in a wholly new set of scholars. It's also resulted in some insanity.
Yeah, well, that's pattern recognition.
That requires a certain amount of judgment sometimes.
Yeah.
But a good journalist, for a journalist, it is a tool beyond the wildest dreams.
And even the existence of itself allows for a filtering process through the people that might want to select, because word gets around. And you say, oh, that's nonsense, and somebody tells you it's not.
Yes.
So it's not so bad to leave it up to...
It is open to continuing critique.
Isn't that a good idea?
And isn't
that feedback that we want?
It is a process of endless refinement, which, by the way, is a good definition of civilization itself.
You think? Yeah, that is,
of endless refinement.
Yeah, right.
And
Okay.
and that is happening certainly. Well, you talk about Enron. Enron is probably very tightly bound up in what happened in 9/11.
I want to show a book, if I may.
Yes, please.
Let's let them look what this is. It's a book that you have done a great deal of research on. It's called now Forbidden Truth. And tell me the author's names pronounced.
Well, no, I probably mispronounce them. Jean-Charles Brizard and Julien Basquet.
Okay, France, right.
They are two very good.
Now published in
fine.
English.
This is
Okay.
the first. Yes, it's a very quick translation. It's been put together pretty swiftly.
With no index on
Somebody
board,
said
huh?
Somebody said it's the worst written book this year.
Yeah.
Maybe, but the content overrules everything else.
You've written a long, interesting review of
I've
that book
examined it
and
pretty
tied it
closely.
into political development.
And there are some. It is quite clear that it is the 9/11 had its origins in a tussle for oil. That the war in Afghanistan is about oil. That the war in Iraq, for Iraq, what's going on toward Iraq, is about oil. But not only about oil. There is the whole lust of empire, and people, the people involved in it are linked together in strange and interesting ways. The people who were pushing essentially a secret and illegal foreign policy before 9/11 to try to get control of the oil fields in Afghanistan were Unicol was the organization that was leading this, and their feasibility study was being done by Enron.
It was actually the oil was probably
Enron had a $100 million contract.
$100 million
to produce a feasibility study on building this pipeline.
A pipeline through Afghanistan.
And they were
being
negotiating with the Taliban.
Yeah,
they
and
were doing everything. They were bringing them to they're bringing them to Texas. They were wining them and dining them and taking them lap dancing and bribing them and doing everything they could to ensure that they would get it. At the last minute, something went wrong. And these...
Now, if I make just one quick thing. The oil is in the Caspian, and they were going to build a pipeline through oil.
Right.
The oil's not in Afghanistan.
No.
You said it was
They wanted to get
but
it
they wanted to get an oil
before
line.
the Russians get it.
Before the Russians
And
get
they
it.
wanted to bring it out through Pakistan to the ports.
And Unicol was involved in that, and Enron, and they bought properties out there.
Oh, Enron,
and they had a huge
still
investment.
has.
Enron.
Enron still has the most barren, desolate land
In Tashkent or in
the Caspian area.
In Caspian, yeah.
But if they'd been able to build their pipe, it would be priceless. So all of this was going on secretly, with the help of elements of the CIA and the State Department and the Defense Department and the FBI.
Why can't the oil come out through Turkey, or why can't it come out through Iran, or why can't it come out some other way other than through the route
It
that
could come
Enron
out
was
through Iran.
pushing?
The most secure and simple and financially viable way is to take it straight through to Afghanistan.
And this is what Enron had.
That's what the whole...
Kenneth Lay had a big investment
That's
in
right.
the billions.
And when the deal fell through, for whatever reason, it may be that the Taliban was asking too much money. It may be that the Taliban never intended to do it anyway.
They had,
for whatever reason.
reportedly, they had asked them to hand over bin Laden.
They were almost prepared to do that, too.
Yeah.
But when it fell through, someone lost their temper. And the threat was made, comply with our deal or we will give you, comply with what we want and you will get a carpet of gold. If you don't, you'll suffer a carpet of bombs.
Yes, we've heard that.
And this carpet of gold, carpet of bombs threat.
Is that validated? I mean, is that the source of that?
Oh, there are enormously long articles about it.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that was pretty close to the quote.
The suggestion and the reality.
Now is that the person who made that remark was slightly drunk.
No, people
whatever, it led then to a policy of preemption by the Al-Qaeda forces. That they said, all right, if they're going to get us, we'll get them first. In fact, the day before 9/11 was the day that the plans for the attack on Afghanistan was put on Bush's desk. 24 hours later, 911.
My God. Mm.
And these people have been doing monumental research.
Absolutely,
into this.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
And you know, there are questions now that they have helped uncover that have not been answered. In fact, they haven't even been asked.
Well, you asked them well. You've written an article that you're going to be making available?
Yes, and to
An
deal,
incredibly informative,
to
well-written
deal with
article.
some of the unanswered questions.
Yes, right.
That have been raised and adumbrated, as it were, foreshadowed by their book here, because but it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
And it has led to some of the most fanciful, extreme, and sometimes hysterical conspiracy theories. But that doesn't mean that there was not a conspiracy.
That's right. Just because there's some...
right.
Yeah.
And there are supposedly now all sorts of investigations into 911. As someone once said, if they can get you asking the right question, if they can get you asking the wrong questions, it doesn't matter what the answers are.
That's right, that's right. That's
and a
right.
lot of the questions in these
that's
so-called 911 investigations now underway in Washington are involved in asking the wrong questions.
Yeah.
No one is asking, well, some of the questions that really should be explored. What, for example, accounts for the extraordinary behavior of George Bush in the hours immediately, in the minutes immediately after the attack on 911?
Now,
this has been raised by some of the women who are the wives of the victims. They've formed a very impressive group.
Yeah,
and they're active in Washington now.
They're going to have an investigation in Congress.
This is one of the
supposedly.
questions that they have asked. And in fact, there is
the whole stance of the yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there is a clip of Bush addressing the school children in Florida as he was told that the second plane had struck the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And that the country was under attack.
Yeah.
And the question a lot of people are asking is, why did he continue for the next 20 minutes to sit discussing a story about a pet goat with the children? Is that the appropriate role for the commander-in-chief when he has just learned that the country is under attack and that there is now underway the most extreme aircraft crisis in history?
Yeah, and you brought in a piece of tape
There is
at the moment that Andrew Card gave him the notice, and he knew we were under attack, and that we're going to run it. Why don't we run it? So we run it now.
Well, let me background to it.
Yeah.
It first appeared online on the Booker School website.
Yes.
That was at the Booker School in Florida. And they put this footage on their website, and it was very quickly taken down.
It was. Yeah.
However, some people had already seized it, and it is now back up online.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of traffic to it.
Yeah.
And as you'll see, that it is, some people regard it as political dynamite.
Well, it could be, and the thing is, we're going to look at a couple minutes.
Yeah,
it's
just
2.5 minutes or so,
minutes.
And it's got some of the talk that's actually going on in the room.
In fact, if viewers are interested in this, they may be interested in putting a tape into their tape machines, because this may not be long available on the internet. One doesn't know.
Possibly so. That's a good general idea.
So,
Get a lot of tape to record it before they're taken down. But this is reflective of a thing that went on for some 20-odd minutes, not just the 2 minutes that you're going to see.
No.
But let's run that tape.
Let's say the actual tape is picked up about 30 seconds before Andrew Card appears on the left of the screen to come in and say very briefly to the president, you don't hear him, but there's a little caption, second tower struck, second plane hits the World Trade Center. Card tells him another plane has struck the World Trade Center. He already knew one plane had struck. That had happened 18 minutes earlier. And he says, a second plane has struck the World Trade Center. America is under attack. And then the camera just stays relentlessly on the children and the school teacher reading the class to the class, and to Bush just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, right.
It's bizarre.
Oh, okay. Well, we run that. Let's set that up and run that in the studio. It runs a couple minutes. So we're talking with Kevin Saunders, and this is a tape, and then we'll come back and follow up on
some other questions.
And some other questions and so forth. So if you could set that up and run that tape in the studio now, then please. Thank you.
Yes, smile. Get ready. More. Yes, more. Get ready. drop it. Thank you. Everybody touch the title of your story. Fingers under the title. Get ready to read the title, The Fast Way. We're waiting for one member. Thank you. Fingers under the title of the story. Get ready. Yes, the cat go. Fingers under the first word of the story. Get ready to read the story the fast way. Get ready. Go on. She likes to go running with her tail. Go on. She played with her tail. Try it again. Get ready from the beginning of that sentence. Get ready. She played with her goat in her house. Go on. She played with her goat in her yard. Good job. Go on. But a goat is something that makes a girl sad. Let's clean that up. Get ready. Drop the butt. Get ready. But a goat is something that makes a girl sad mad. Go on.
Exactly right. Oh, these are great readings. Very impressive. Thank you also very much for showing me your reading skills. I bet they practiced it, don't you?
Oh, yes. That's a requirement. Homework. Reading homework.
Reading more than they watch TV?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You try to do that? Read more than you watch TV? Oh, that's great. Very good. Very important to practice. Thanks for having it. Very impressive.
Well, that's really interesting. That you know, that's a really interesting piece that he just let that thing go like
It
that.
has given rise to some quite extraordinary speculation. The most extreme perhaps being the allegation that, well, the reason he was not surprised is because he knew it was going to happen. A good rule in journalism is never attribute to conspiracy anything that can be explained by stupidity. Or, in this case, perhaps fear or shock, or being overwhelmed by the import of the information and simply freezing or into a sort of denial.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, however, it does question the competence of this man to be the leader of the free world in the nuclear age.
And it did. We had it had the noise of the children. I've seen this on C-SPAN. This footage. It was a card and so forth. But I hadn't heard the kids talking and all that sort of thing. And this went on for 20 minutes.
Went on for 20 minutes.
And the defenses weren't scrambled, and there were things to be done.
That's right.
And so forth. And there's all that. That's a question.
That's another question.
Up.
Why were there no planes in the air
Yeah.
to do something about this? That's supposed to be normal routine
No,
procedure,
no.
even without presidential authority.
Now, what do we do with this? Because the article that you've written in the excerpt from this book and so forth goes into some incredible allegations. We begin to bring in the Carlyle group. We begin to bring in Harkin. We begin to bring in Halliburton, Mr. Cheney, and a lot of other people that were
The whole
involved in a
thing
big,
is
massive
drenched in oil.
Drenched in oil, right?
And it's the power of big oil is everywhere to be found in this. And there are other things, perhaps even more sinister and strange than that film that we've just seen. One of the most important questions that has not been pursued is, why is it that the former head of the Pakistani Secret Service was revealed to have sent a check or mailed a $100,000 payment?
A wire.
A wire
Transfer of money.
of $100,000 to Chief Pilot Atto,
Muhammad Atta.
the man who flew the first plane.
Now, did the authors bring this out?
No. This was brought up after this book came out.
I see.
And it was brought up by an article in the front page of the Times of India.
Now, has this been validated?
Yes.
Yeah, been validated that $100,000 was wired to Muhammad Atta. Where?
From Pakistan.
Pakistan
to Florida.
When?
About a week before 9/11.
And it was sent by whom?
Now, here's a very interesting. It's sent by a man called
That's a lot of money.
Sahid Sheikh.
Yeah.
Now, Sahid Sheikh is a terrorist. He spent a lot of time in jail.
He's been arrested.
He was, well, the sequence was he was in jail for terrorist activities in India. He was released after some Al-Qaeda-related terrorists hijacked an Indian airliner. They killed one of the passengers. They threatened to kill everybody. And a deal was struck whereby 3 Pakistani terrorists related to Al-Qaeda, connected to bin Laden, were to be released and were released. And one of them was Saeed Sheikh. Saeed Sheikh was the top aide of the former head of the Pakistani Secret Service, General Mahmood.
Good grief.
Now, General Mahmood, after he was outed by the Times of India for this $100,000 payment to the terrorist pilot, Mahmood retired. I mean, he wasn't arrested. He wasn't seized. He wasn't charged. He just retired.
I heard Sheikh, and then I heard Mahmood. Yeah. Mahmood was involved in
authorized the payment, and the actual payment was done by Sheikh.
All right, good.
By Sheikh Saeed.
Got it. And it went to Mohammed.
Now, Saeed is the former terrorist. Saeed now is in a Pakistani prison after having been charged with involvement in the kidnapping and beheading of Daniel Pearl.
Right, okay.
Now, there are a lot of dots to be connected here, surely. Further to which, General Mahmood was in and out of Washington for several weeks before 9/11, and indeed on the morning of 9/11, he was having breakfast with Senator Graham, who is the head of the intelligence service.
Yeah, Florida.
So why has not this been discussed? Why has nobody asked why or what or how?
Why possibly hasn't it been discussed, and what are some of the possible implications?
Well, it's generally thought by people who have probed this that the government doesn't want to touch this. The American government doesn't want to touch it. The Pakistani government doesn't want to touch it because it would reveal the incredible links that have been built up over the years between the CIA and the Pakistani Secret Service, which in fact is a creation of the CIA.
And Saudi money.
And Saudi money. And the Taliban.
And Mr. Cheney?
Well,
Halliburton.
Halliburton
has the contract
Halliburton is making a fortune out of
this. And do they have, who has the contract to lay the pipeline? Is Halliburton involved in that?
Halliburton is involved in that.
They're involved heavily?
Sure, very heavily.
Lead in that? Or just one of many?
One of many.
Oh, yeah, right. But it could involve Mr. Cheney.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah,
and they don't want to raise this. They don't want the pipeline story to be uncovered. They don't want the $100,000 payment to be uncovered.
With names and numbers.
With the names and the people and their links. Because General Mahmood was in and out of Washington. He had meetings with the Pentagon, with the CIA, with the State Department. I mean, he was a top-level representative. And suddenly it's discovered that he had paid the pilot who was crashing into the World Trade Center $100,000.
And once again,
he retires.
Yeah, once again, I don't like to be, I mean, has this been triple source and so forth? This is an incredibly important thing.
Yes, there is.
And it is. That's understood by people. We're going to put a couple sites up at the end.
There is a 16-page article on this by a very fine British journalist called Chiam. I'm not even going to try to mispronounce his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's one of a number of writers for an excellent website called Global Resources.
Okay, we're going to give up
and we should put the website at the end.
We have put it on the
two
closing
best
graphics,
sources
so you
on
can look
all
for
of
that
this.
in the audience.
The two best sources on all of this are Global Resources, Global Research, which is a Canadian website, and another website in New Zealand.
Scoop?
Called Scoop, which has an office in the Parliamentary Bureau in New Zealand.
All right.
So it's a, as it were, an established secure, non-crazy website. Their research is monumental.
Well, for those who are wondering
And we
about
can
how...
put both those sites up at the end.
And for those of you who may be wondering that this is just part of the nonsense that you get on the internet and so forth, go and look and judge for yourself. That's one of the nice things about it, because they can go and look at this.
Right.
And that evidence has a way of getting out that it could be smothered, as it has been by the traditional news sources. So this is important stuff.
And the article by Chiam Tupferberg, I believe is his pronunciation, but Chiam Tupferberg has written this extraordinarily detailed article about the $100,000 payment.
All of which should be coming out, because this is a time, and there's pressures for that now, particularly with this Iraq business and all that sort of thing that's coming out. It's incredibly important and significant stuff. The article you've written, which I look forward to being published in a magazine or on the net and so forth, is good, and we are all invited to follow the leads of Kevin Saunders, who's been following this stuff, and judge for yourself the information there, rather than saying, well, if it's internet, it's got to be goofy. It isn't necessarily so. There's some very interesting stuff to be found there. Kevin, thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, we've run out of time. We could go on talking for hours. It's been your pleasure. Had the perception of one of the greatest, the best inveterate investigative or general reporters that that we have in the country. Kevin Saunders, he's now with War Peace Foundation, and he's also with this Radio for Peace International. Radio for Peace International, and happy to bring you his perception. We invite you to tune in. We'll come back next week. Look for the websites at the end of the closing credits, the research websites.
Global Research and Scoop.
Yep, and they're there, and thank you very much. We'll see you next week. So thanks a lot.
Right.
You know, there's been a, you know, so we, see, they're rolling the credit, and I think we've got at the end.
It's as Drudge says, developing hard. And so it certainly is.
Well, I know I read your article. It's incredibly well written and really researched and so forth. It's really good. Now, there's nowhere you can get your article yet. Right?
No, not yet.
I thank you for having put that to me.
In fact,
really
it's almost in draft form.
Yeah.
I want to polish it up a little bit.
Well, there's only a couple of typos I saw. It's very well written. It's really informative.
I think it's ready now.
It's eye-opening.
And I think it
really
has to come out very soon.
It's going to be coming out, and it could come out like in a Watergate kind of way. This thing could you know, this could be implicating people within the administration and that sort of thing.
Oh, huge, yes. I think it will landslide as the information comes out. And I think the administration could have very real problems. I think they might be. It seems to me they might be, even now, because they've just been going with this this whole. They're trying to stop the 911 investigations. Trying to stop everything. And get away from the terrorists. Now they're going to try and bring this whole big push on Iraq. Yes, smother it in the Iraq war. Yeah, the whole neocon thing. They've been having that thing for a long time and trying to bring this. This ideological thing, and they've been very successful in terms of getting a great deal of the media to follow their lead. Right. And that sort of thing. Yes, the media has been timid. The Democrats have been timid. The Democrats have been timid. We heard Mr. You know, Mr. Gore made a statement yesterday that they may be beginning to away from their somnambulistic state. They let that tax cut go through. Very encouraging thing from Gore. Yeah. It could be the